Welcome to today's Explainer, guys. Today we are unpacking one of the most consequential and honestly often misunderstood geopolitical dynamics in the entire world, the multidimensional rivalry between Turkey and Israel. We're going to anchor our deep dive today and some really striking new research and data compiled by SolarSafe. We'll be looking way beyond the daily headlines to uncover the structural, the financial, and the strategic realities that are shaping this critical relationship. Because make no mistake, this is a rivalry that directly impacts global energy markets and international security. So, here's our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the multidimensional rivalry itself. Second, we'll break down the 10 arenas of competition. Third, we'll explore a decade of financial parity between the two. Fourth, we dive into the massive 2024 spending surge. And finally, we'll look at how this is shifting the balance of power. All right, let's jump right into part one, a multidimensional rivalry between two absolute regional heavyweights. You know, when we usually hear about Turkey and Israel, it's almost always framed around isolated, one-off diplomatic incidents. But actually, scratch that. It's so much deeper than that. It's a highly complex competition over security, energy, and outright regional dominance across West Asia and the Eastern Mediterranean. To really get it, we first have to contrast their foundational profiles. As the research outlines, Turkey operates as a massive regional power. I mean, it's a key NATO member, it's a vital energy transit hub connecting East and West, and it wields serious influence backed by a very strong military. Then, on the other side, you have Israel, which leverages its status as a core strategic ally to the US. It relies heavily on advanced military power, an absolutely undeniable technological edge, and a growing role as a natural gas energy exporter. So we're talking about two very distinct, highly capable actors with spheres of influence that overlap in a major way. Which brings us to our second point, the 10 arenas of competition, or what we can call the strategic canvas. Drawn directly from the Bauman Center Strategic Atlas series, we can map out exactly where and how this rivalry plays out across 10 distinct strategic arenas. And these aren't just isolated bubbles, right? They are highly interconnected zones that shape a very delicate balance of power. It's like a giant puzzle. A move in one arena almost always triggers a reaction in another. Let's group the first set of these arenas geographically. We see intense, ongoing friction in the Eastern Mediterranean over maritime boundaries and natural gas fields. And that's a race that directly affects global energy prices for all of us. Then, in Syria and Iraq, the competition revolves around military presence and complex cross-border operations involving Kurdish political and militant factions, groups like the SDF, YPG, and PKK. Further out, their interests completely collide in the South Caucasus regarding the Zongzor corridor and Azerbaijani-Armenian dynamics. And of course, Iran and Palestine, specifically Gaza, represent highly volatile hotspots where strategic deterrence, humanitarian crises, and these massive networks of alliances all interlock. But hey, the competition isn't just about geography, it's also thematic. These remaining arenas are conceptual battlegrounds. For instance, there is a fierce race in air power and defense. This pits Israel's advanced F-35 program and air superiority right up against Turkey's rapidly advancing UAV and drone defense industries. They are also competing heavily in regional diplomacy, think initiatives like the Abraham Accords, as well as battling for influence over non-state actors and vying for control over strategic corridors. Turkey pushes the Middle Corridor and Development Road, while Israel looks toward IMEC, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor. So this isn't just about lines on a map. It's literally a battle for who controls the future of global trade transit. So moving on to part three, let's look at what we're calling a decade of parity from 2015 to 2023. Because, let's be real, sustaining a rivalry across 10 massive strategic arenas requires immense resources. If we look at the timeline from 2015 to 2023, measured in constant 2024 US dollars based on SIPRI data, a really fascinating trend emerges. Back in 2015, there was a noticeable spending gap. But by 2018, their military budgets aligned incredibly closely. For nearly a decade, we see this state of financial parity. Over that 2015 to 2023 period, Israel averaged roughly $22 billion annually, while Turkey averaged about $19 billion. Well, what exactly did Turkey do with that $19 billion a year? They essentially used it to fund a period of steady, incremental growth. A lot of this capital was heavily directed toward driving a localized domestic defense industry, particularly when it came to drone technology, and financing sustained cross-border military operations in neighboring Syria and Iraq. Now contrast that steady, localized growth with Israel's posture during the exact same time frame. From 2015 to 2023, Israel maintained highly consistent, top-tier military funding, averaging that $22 billion annually. This capital was absolutely crucial for maintaining its advanced technological edge and regional deterrence capabilities, making sure its air superiority and missile defense systems remained completely state-of-the-art across those 10 arenas we just discussed. Okay, now for part 4, and this is where things get really wild. The 2024 spending surge. Everything we just discussed, the balanced 10 arenas, the decade of budget parity, is completely shattered by the numbers emerging from 2024. For years, the spending trajectories of both nations tracked closely together. But as we move into 2024, Turkey continues its steady, incremental rise, while Israel's spending trajectory literally skyrockets vertically. It's an incredible visual divergence. That vertical jump represents a staggering 65% increase in Israel's defense spending in a single year, from 2023 to 2024. Just to put that into perspective for a second, a 65% single-year jump for a mature, highly developed military is an absolutely unprecedented influx of capital. To really contextualize this, SolarSafe's research notes that this is actually the biggest rise in Israel's military spending since 1967. The data makes it crystal clear that this spike is undeniably the Gaza war effect. It's directly driven by the immense financial costs of the ongoing conflict and the resulting massive mobilization of military resources. When we look at the raw numbers for 2024, the gap is just breathtaking. Israel's military spending hit $45.9 billion. Turkey, maintaining its steady trajectory, reached $25 billion. So in a single year, a nearly $21 billion spending gap just suddenly opened up between the two regional heavyweights. And remember, this isn't just a gap on a spreadsheet. That money represents real hardware, technology, and strategic leverage. Which leaves us with the most striking ratio of all. As of 2024, Israel is now spending 1.8 times more on its military than Turkey. For the moment, at least, the era of financial parity between these two competitors is decisively over. Finally, let's wrap up with Part 5, Shifting the Regional Balance. Let's bring the macro geopolitical landscape and the micro financial data together to understand what this actually means for the future. What we are looking at is a massive, sudden capital injection into one side of a previously balanced geopolitical scale. A roughly $20 billion gap has just been injected into a delicate rivalry that, for a decade, relied on parity across maritime borders, airspace, proxy networks, and diplomatic corridors. Which leaves us with this final, kind of burning question. Money dictates military reality, right? So, with Israel suddenly outspending Turkey by 1.8 times, how will this immense power shift disrupt the Eastern Mediterranean gas race? How is it going to alter the drone versus air defense battlegrounds, or the proxy competitions in Syria and beyond? The map of the Middle East is drawn not just in borders, but in budgets. And in 2024, those numbers were radically redrawn. Thanks so much for watching this explainer, guys. We'll see you next time.